Hi, my name is Abdul, and welcome to my Capstone Study to Play. For athletes, dedication and determination is a big part of the job. However, that dedication and determination can take away from, as a student athlete, their schoolwork, which is a very, very important part of life as a student athlete. I've experienced this personally in my junior year, and I have a lot of friends who are student athletes who have also experienced this. They feel kind of burnt out and overwhelmed when they can't balance between academics and athletics, and that is what I wanted this capsule to help solve. So my problem statement was, how can I help student athletes maintain a balance between academics and athletics? However, my original problem statement, as well as me trying to figure out how exactly I was going to shape this capstone, ended up being a lot more different. Originally, this capstone was to help other student athletes not suffer what I suffered. So the original problem statement was, how can I help student athletes avoid athletic burnout? But as I progressed on in the investigate step, I realized that although nationwide and even statewide, athletic burnout is a problem with student athletes, it wasn't necessarily too much of a problem in Akron, Ohio. And because of the feedback that I got from the interpret step, that helped shape my problem statement from how can I help students avoid athletic burnout to how can I help them maintain a balance. So to investigate how this problem affected others within the Akron community for student athletes, I used a bunch of investigatory tools. First one, which was the most important one, was a survey collecting the data of those who suffered from burnout, those who wanted to have a balance, those who were suffering from academic burnout, which was they felt that sports was hindering their ability to perform well in schools, and much more data.
What I use. This was sent out to 25 student athletes or former student athletes from across Akron Public Schools, primarily STEM, and asked them simply what grade they were in, whether or not they play a sport now or were active, and how they felt about juggling schoolwork along with academics. Did they find it easier or harder? Did it affect their performance a lot? Did they feel burnt out? And do they feel that they could have done better in either sports or academics?
So from there, I used three main investigatory tools that were introduced by Capstone to me. The first was a user journey map.
Or in this case, a subset of the user journey map and empathy map. This maps out and investigates what a user does, what they think about, who they go to for guidance, and the pains and gains when they suffer a scenario, in this case, imbalance.
The second investigatory tool, which I actually used a lot and to me was the most helpful, was the ecosystem map.
This maps out a user's environment and can help figure out what link in this environment is either being impacted the most or suffering the most in a certain scenario, and then they can investigate that specific link. And finally, we have the root cause analysis, which looks at certain variables that I can change that are rooted within the cause of imbalance, which in this case, the variables that I can change with my capstone are green, while the ones that I can't are in red.
Designing this capstone solution, I had to keep four key design principles in mind.
The solution has to be inclusive of all student athletes that want to use this capstone, regardless of the level of imbalance. It has to be an engaging time management service. It has to be freely accessible, the point of this time management service, and it has to be an impact on the student athletes that this capstone was really helpful
I
in.
brainstormed a couple of solutions. The first one was a study tables that is either digital or more easily accessible.
Study tables are usually held before practice or replace a practice and allow a student to study for big tests or assignments. I would make this digital to make it more accessible, or in case of physical, just make it more easily accessible.
The second solution is a reminder app or an assistant.
I would be empowering Google Assistant, Siri, or Alexa to remind a student athlete when an upcoming test or assignment is due and then create study times, or I can actually create an app itself which would do the same thing except not with audible reminders, rather push notifications.
The third solution would be a streamlined planner that can either be online or just a lot better of a planner that's physical for those that don't like online solutions.
Planners have been a staple of time management for a very long time now. However, they've become a little bit obsolete due to the fact that Google Calendar aims to do exactly what it does except digitized. However, planners are still very useful, and if I were to just make a planner that was more streamlined online, it would help out student athletes.
I sent out to a focus group, a small group of student athletes, a sample group, to figure out exactly what solution would be best for them or best for their fellow student athletes.
A sample group of 5 students voted on what the solutions that I presented were best adhering to these 4 principles. They mainly voted that the reminder apps were more inclusive, while the study tables were more
For
impactful.
this, I used a decision matrix, a common tool that engineers use for deciding between which solutions can work best, whether you need to combine a solution or based on design constraints and design principles, which solution is the outright best to use.
Taking data from my focus group, I decided to quantify the data and categorize it into my design principles from best to worst. Best was a 1, worst was a 3, and the lowest totals would be solutions that would be considered. In the end, I decided to consider study tables and the reminder app as a hybrid solution because they were the most impacting, inclusive,
So
and
after figuring out from this decision matrix what my solution should be, then the next step became trying to implement this. So crafting this solution, I needed to first figure out how I was going to entice users into using this capstone, how exactly they were going to use it and keep their minds engaged within using this app slash digital study tables. And from there, that's when I decided to use a new capstone tool
called the 5 E's. Entice is getting a user to use the solution. Enter is how they actually start using the solution. Engage is keeping them in using the solution or how it works for them. Exit is how they stop using it. And extend is having others use it.
So after using the 5 E's, then I decided to actually start prototyping. Uh, the prototype stage first involved a low-tech prototype.
For this, I decided to use Appre.io. It's an online, easy to make app maker. It goes on a 2 week free trial, but I thought that for a low tech prototype, if I can just easily make something that showcase what I wanted to do, it would be good enough for me. And this is kind of what the low tech prototype looked like. A simple interface that you can navigate with using buttons that could be shown on your phone or your desktop or iOS. Very simple.
Asking Coach Appleby and Coach Metcalf about how to build an app. They gave me a bunch of ideas about what other mediums I could use for creating an app. Glide was suggested, Appry was also suggested, MIT App Inventor was bounced around a lot, but I decided to stick with Appry. After all, it felt very, very clean to use and was very easy to use as a beginner coder.
And this was essentially the app. An easy login feature which you could register with, although this isn't necessarily on the app right now. That's still something that I would have to change up. And then it goes to the homepage. You can access the calendar, your own personalized Google Calendar. That is. The next page would be accessing and opening up Google Classroom, but that's kind of redundant on a web app, which Appery is. But then the STEM Capstone test lobby showcasing Google Hangouts, what digital study tables would look like. You could be moved by somebody moderating the test lobby into different chat rooms or video chat rooms where you can study with other students or study with a teacher. Emphasis on the teacher if you needed help with an assignment. There was supposed to be a chatbot where students can type in their questions about general education, and the chatbot would reply with resources for them to research. But after looking at how much advanced coding was needed, as well as familiarization with Appery, this is talking years of experience, I
The
decided.
feedback part was very, very important as to where I can go with my app experience. Taylor Trentman from Goodyear suggested that digital study tables was a very clean idea. However, actually enticing tutors or teachers to follow through with it, staying after school or dedicating time after school to help tutor students outside of their specified office hours, it was going to be a difficult task to find substitute teachers or even regular teachers that can do that. You had my friend Dalton, who, although liked how the interface of the app was going, did suggest that these digital study tables although a good idea had a specific flaw to them that I did not even think about.
My personal opinion, like I said, it's going to take a lot of time out of the teacher. Like, the teacher has to be really dedicated to this for it to work. And I just don't see most teachers being that dedicated or having the time to be that dedicated to help these students. And because it's a bunch of students with another students that are struggling, none of the students can really help them at all either.
And my good friend Milan, who's also in my focus group, did like how the user interface felt as well.
I like that it's simple to use and very fast. Only thing is, I wish the new features would come out soon because there's some empty areas that could be really helpful.
The common thing that I was getting from this feedback was that as a beginner coder, there is a lot more that if I did know how to code, especially in TypeScript, which caught me extremely off guard, this could have actually become something extremely special if I had more time to work on it. And if I was working on something that you didn't have to pay for, this would be a capstone that may as well have been super impacting. I guess you could say that this capstone was a success. It did what it was supposed to do, remind students about when they can check on assignments, be reminded of that, check Google Classroom easily, and then do digital study tables via Google Hangouts, all in one central hub. But I can't think about what could have been if I ended up using a different medium. Appery is a web app, not an actual app that you can download, unless you package it to Google Play or the Apple Store. And there's a feature that you can do that, but I wasn't necessarily able to do that at the time. So definitely, if I were to improve something on this capstone, it would be finding a different medium to use. As clean and as good as Appery felt, I just feel like there's a lot of other mediums for creating apps out there that are just a lot easier to use and free, that doesn't take out a lot of money. This is my capstone study to play, and thank you for watching.